Good morning, troublemakers. Happy Monday. Boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. We got Motor Madness, Chat GPT in your car. Yes, it's here. And the one and only Jaime Oldershaw to talk about Dealer of the Year awards.
I go, the people really want to know.
It's too much for a Monday.
It's a lot for a Monday.
There's a lot of else that we're not talking about today that I'm sure you're aware of with finance and all that. But
let us just say, like, we know SVB, it's happening. There's things happening. We're going to wait. We're going to just hold just a minute on us. We're going to wait till a little bit more of the dust settles, and maybe we'll bring you a little like impact to auto. So just hang tight. We might get some smarter minds than us on the whole banking thing.
What do you mean maybe? That's our strategy. Just get people smarter than us, which we'll get to later in the show today. But today we are kicking off Motor Madness. It is our verse. Look at that logo. That's actually the first time I'm seeing it. That's so good. It's got this like Thor Ragnarok feel to it. Motor Madness is our version of March Madness, where we're pitting vehicles, classic vehicles against modern vehicles, and our community gets to vote every day. We're starting with 8 on each side, and we're going to end up with one champion, the greatest car of all time. Probably not, but you get to decide. You can just light us up in the comments.
The greatest car of Todd Caputo's all time.
Yeah, so yeah, that's right. So Todd Caputo, who you know, longtime Chevy dealer, we had him play a major role in curating lists, which is why today's combo. So if you get our daily email, you can get it at ASOTU.com or just follow us on LinkedIn. The polls are going to be there. You'll be able to find it anywhere we are. And today's matchup, we got all Chevys v Chevys today. The classic cars is a 79 Impala versus an 87 Camaro IROC Z. So if you are an Italian contractor, you know exactly what an IROC Z is. Can I say that? I'm Italian.
I don't know.
I grew up in Jersey, man. Every Italian contractor's son had an IROC Z. In the modern cars, it's a 2011 Chevy Impala, like the souped up SS kind. Or get this one, a 2010 Chevy Astrovan.
You know what? I think that's going to win. It might just win out of like,
it might win the whole thing
being ridiculous.
And it's funny. And
or all the GMs that sold them for $20,000 in gross profit early in 2013 and 2014. That's exactly what it was.
They were awesome trucks. And you know, in some of our content, you'll see Todd Caputo's rationale. And the reason he picked this truck, he's like, I sold so many of these things. He's like, it's got to be one of the greatest cars of all time. Yep. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that. And we're also going to have a big event coming up in Arlington on April 5th. So a lot of information coming out that if you're in Arlington, Texas, not Virginia, Arlington, Texas. If you're in Arlington, Virginia, you can fly in and see us too. We got an awesome show coming up for you. We hope you can be there and join us in the evening of April 5th. All right, let's get into some news. Kyle, did you realize it was coming this quickly?
You know, I still think... Okay, just tell them what it is, Paul. And
all right.
I'll give you my thoughts.
All right, look, I think we kind of all knew it was moving fast, but according to sources close to the matter, General Motors, talked about them on Friday, is working on integrating Chat GPT into its vehicle's operating system in the form of a virtual assistant. The virtual assistant, you know, they've partnered with Microsoft to build their operating system. So there's already an advantage there. So Microsoft's Azure cloud service, which has exclusive rights to OpenAI tech that powers Chat GPT, is part of the deal. Now, GM did confirm this, and we're not just talking about sources closest to the matter. Scott Miller, GM's vice president of software-defined vehicle and operating systems, confirmed it as he expounded on the idea of a highly useful and responsive virtual assistant that could, you know, explain things like how to change a flat or what that warning light means on your dashboard, maybe even book a service call. And anyone who has ever interacted with that little, we won't even call it an assistant, when you press the little voice button in the car, it's like dook dook, and then you like say something, and then it gets it wrong every time. You're like, by the time I told you to adjust the cabin temperature to 72 degrees, right? Like, I'm just pressing the button because they're terrible.
You know, I'm really hopeful that they understand exactly what this tech does and what it is. I would hope that a vice president of software of GM understands that. But
Probably.
you know my feelings about OEMs and technology.
Don't get in trouble on a Monday. Don't get in trouble on a Monday.
Struggling a little bit, okay? But if they understand it and they understand that it needs to be trained, right? It has to have some level of training. Like, here's the owner's manual. Learn that now. Spit things out. I think that's going to go a lot better. You know, the other question is just, you know, how can we integrate this into booking service appointments, into the multiple DMSs and service schedulers? Like, it's a big project. I wouldn't expect this thing to be sliding down the pipe in the next like 3 to 6 months. I feel a big development project for an OEM, and they've got to wrap their heads around exactly how GPT. And here's the thing. Actually, just this week, there's been multiple reports that GTP4 is coming out in the next week. Like, they're going to release it. And so learning at that scale is going to be a whole different level. There's even going to be video capacities and abilities to it, to basically put frames together to build a video. So there is a reality that you could utilize GT4 to create a dynamic video on a how-to of that exact vehicle if it understands everything that's going on in the vehicle.
Oh my gosh.
So it's out there, but there's still so much learning to be done. And I have this feeling that OEMs may not want to be the ones to tiptoe into it.
Just make it flexible. They did say that there is going to be a car specific layer over everything, so they're not just letting it out. So we'll see what happens, but you know, there's nothing like talking about the future like Monday and talking about this stuff. Just, you know, trying to keep it fun and flexible. Listen, speaking of keeping things fun and flexible,
Stop.
Segue.
Time.
you know, there's nothing more fun than the comment section of most posts on the internet, or the review section for that matter, because sometimes I just read Amazon reviews for entertainment. And so we're going to welcome
Amazon
to the show. Right. Absolutely. Jaime Oldershaw, VP of, what's the title? General Manager at DealerRater and VP of Reputation Strategy. Did I get that right?
It's too much, but yeah,
it's good. It's important.
You nailed it. As always.
Jaime Oldershaw, thank you for joining us again. Last time we were together having a conversation, we ended up in federal government documents.
We did. It was great. Hopefully we won't end up there this time. Or
for good reason. I mean, for good reason.
Good marketing. But now, look, I can't think of better show to come on to talk about the best of the best in local automotive retail than this one. So it's just great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we want you to talk a little bit about the DealerRater Dealer of the Year award that you guys have just recently announced, and a lot of dealers are getting that little notification in their DealerRater panel or email saying they've won either their state specific or regional or national. And so would love for you to talk about a little bit about that. I've got some firsthand experience with just how that encourages a dealership and what you get to bring alongside of that. But talk a little bit about how this kind of came about, what the award looks like now, and maybe some highlights from this year.
Yeah, sure thing. So this is our 14th year. I can't believe it's been 14 years since we started into this award. It started off just recognizing a small group of dealers. But I mean, the idea behind it was we wanted to showcase the best of the best for consumers, and we wanted to be based on customer feedback. Back in the early days, dealers embraced it right off the bat. Back then we were generating far fewer reviews. So the number of winners was a bit smaller. But we want to celebrate local. We want to celebrate local retailers, the work that they do, to not only provide an exceptional customer experience, but also those who are really good at getting consumers to come to our platform to share that story. Because it's one thing to provide a fantastic experience, but you need people to go talk about it. You need that social proof. You need buy-in amongst folks in your amongst your team to go ask for that content. So I mean, over the year, the awards program has just gotten bigger and bigger. And so essentially how we run it is we look at all the content that was collected on our platform for the previous calendar year. So for the 2023 awards that we just gave out, it's based on all the content for 2022. And on our platform, there were 1.1 million reviews across 18,600 dealers. So it's a lot of content, a lot of hard work that a lot of dealers put into generating that content. And we essentially look at two components. It's review volume and review score. We've got a third component that maybe I'll tease now and come back to in a little bit that we're introducing this year. Exclusive here. Your dealers hearing it here first. We're going to have more information coming out about it. but we run a fancy algorithm built by people smarter than me, and we come up with what we call the power score, and that ranks all the dealers. And then from there, we award. It sort of starts with the 8 regions, and we have the 8 regional awards, which we showcased in the announcement last week. And then we have the national brand awards, about 50 dealers or so in the US and Canada. And then the state brand award winners. So that's all of the brand winners at the state level. So all told, it's about 1,200 dealers that are awarded with Dealer of the Year recognition for the previous calendar year. And then below that, we have the Consumer Satisfaction Awards, where we look at the top 10% of franchise dealers, again, based on Power Score, and then the indies and the Canadian dealers who meet the criteria. So it's a broad awards program, but it's my favorite time of the year because we get to recognize the best of the best for local. And these dealers, they all deserve it. You do not win this award by accident.
Right, because you can't mess with the results, right? It's like people are going to say what they're going to say.
It's pure. I mean, this is pure data. It's coming right from consumers. Sometimes in some state brand contests, it literally comes down to a 100th or even 1,000th of a point. I mean, they are so close. So they're very, very competitive awards. And we built this year a tracker now. So dealers, as they come into the year, they can see where they rank. And so throughout the year,
that's great. That's amazing.
Competitive juices, and they can see what their power score is as the year goes on. So they can kind of see how they're doing and give their team incentives to keep pushing to try to get the top prize. So it'll be fun to see how that rolls out this year.
That's awesome. I love that, because as a dealer, I was always going, oh man, I wish I could know just where I'm at. Are we tracking? Are we winning? All that type of stuff. And that's like the competitive edge of a dealer to win in that customer satisfaction. So I think that's a big deal right there. So
we want to provide as much transparency as we can. So now if dealers come to the that chart in our dealer panel, they can see how they stacked up for this year's award. So for the award that we just gave out, they can sort of see where they are. It's a blessing and a curse, because some dealers will see they missed it literally by like a few thousandths of a point. But soon we're going to
kind of like the Eagles in the Super Bowl this year.
Just that much,
just
so
a little
close.
Yeah,
so let me ask you this.
Or two.
So, this is one of the things that often goes underlooked in automotive, because consumers could easily say or adopt the stigma that, it's a tough environment and it's combative. And the truth is that you have insane amount of first party pure data, as you called it, where anyone can go at any time and just look at what other consumers say. Like when we go into Amazon, it's easy. We click on the scores. We trust most of the reviews, but it almost seems like DealerRater is actually almost a little cleaner and harder to game than even the Amazon stuff is.
Yeah, we build a lot of work into our, content moderation. We spend a lot of time building that out. We take a lot of pride in the transparency and the quality of the content that we produce, but we also want, the consumers, when they come to the platform, that we want them to tell a story. And so that we have a 15-word minimum. You got to at least start talking about your experience. We find that once we get consumers to do that, the average word count on our platform is, I think, like 50 words per review. So you can't
just click a star level and go. You have to type at least 15 words in.
You got to at least tell us something, right? Because 5 stars, that might be great for an incentive program at the dealership, but it's not going to help.
It's not.
Them
it's not
tell
great,
their local story, right?
Yeah. And with other consumers, like that's what everybody wants. They want to read the story.
Exactly. And we want to be able to collect content across various dimensions of the experience, like financing experience, trade-in experience, price transparency, speed of transaction, quality of work. Like we want to give the dealers the feedback that they need to get better. And 5 stars for an overall experience is not going to do the trick. And we also want to make sure that, consumers can rate the employees that they did business with, because it's not just, hey, was this dealership great? But how did Paul do? How did Kyle do? And dealers can use that and leverage that for performance management and training and encouragement and just general accountability within the dealership, which we find that, Dealer of the Year winners embrace that, and they've really enabled their employees to be taggable on our site. That's something, not something you need to pay us a dime to do. You can just claim your listing and load in your employees, and now everyone can be rated at the dealership, and you can't do that on Google or Yelp or any other platforms.
That's so awesome. Let me ask you
question.
This. Go ahead.
The question that I have on my mind, and maybe a lot of people do, is there a top dog? Is there a number one overall national winner to beat all winners? Is that a thing?
It's funny. We used to do that. We had that. In fact, we did that for 8 years. And then we realized, again, there was a lot of competition. I mean, there's so many prideful dealers who just want to win that top award.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized that from a consumer standpoint, it's probably not helpful to have one winner that's a particular brand in a particular state. That's not necessarily helpful for that consumer. But at the brand level, I think it's important to have the best of the best for a brand, Ford, Toyota, Mercedes, whatever. So we've kept the that sort of national brand level, but we did reintroduce kind of this top tier. And instead of having one dealer to rule them all, we had these 8 regional winners. So you can sort of think about the dealer, the best dealer for a particular brand within your region, if that's important to you as a consumer. And we know that it is. That's something that we're
So let me ask you this. We're almost out of time. You've obviously read many, 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 many more reviews than the average person. If you were to summarize like what the consumer is looking for, what they tend to complain about the most, or what's the common negative thing that comes up, what would you say is the most common thing that dealers can be paying more attention to?
Probably communication. Miscommunication, lack of communication, lack of follow-up, that appears very frequently in the content that we see as far as ways for dealerships to improve. In fact, I teased this earlier and I want to come back to it before the end of the time here. The third factor that we're going to include in the rating in the score calculation for next year's awards is review response rate, because that to us is a really important component of your investment in the consumer and staying connected with your customers. And that if someone comes to take the time to share feedback about your dealership, you're taking the time to say thank you and please come back to us when you need help, and come back to us for your next car, come back to us for service. Those are the dealers that are really engaged with content, and we want to make sure that we recognize those dealers and factor that in. So that'll be sort of the third factor as we look at next year's scoring. Review scores, review volume, and then review response rate on DealerRater and cars. So connecting, talking to consumers, more important than ever this year.
You heard him say it. Jaime Oldershaw, DealerRater, get out there and communicate with your customers. Watch out for that Chat GPT.